Did you ever wonder why someone becomes completely different around one specific person? How they suddenly turn clumsy, overly critical, or strangely protective? According to Sigmund Freud, these aren't mere coincidences, but manifestations from our unconscious mind, revealing our deepest feelings, ones we often don't even recognize ourselves. Picture yourself at dinner with friends where there's someone who attracts you, yet you keep contradicting them on every topic. Freud would say you're employing a defense mechanism called reaction formation, transforming attraction into apparent hostility to shield your ego from potential rejection. Our unconscious communicates through gestures, words, and silence, with every detail serving as a clue and every seemingly random behavior hiding profound truth. Today we'll explore 6 invisible signals that reveal when someone is secretly in love with you, interpreted through the brilliant lens of Freudian psychoanalysis. If you want to continue exploring human behavior secrets and deciphering hidden unconscious messages, subscribe to this channel. The first signal we'll discover will leave you speechless. Aggression as love's disguise. The initial signal revealing hidden love is paradoxically aggression itself. When someone constantly criticizes you, contradicts everything you say, or always seems to find ways to clash with you, your unconscious might be receiving a disguised love message. Imagine this workplace scenario. There's a colleague who always seems to have it out for you, criticizing your projects, questioning your ideas, pointing out every minor mistake. Everyone thinks they hate you, but according to Freud, it could be exactly the opposite. This hostile behavior might conceal deep attraction that the person's unconscious cannot accept. Freud termed this phenomenon reaction formation, one of the ego's most sophisticated defense mechanisms. It works like this. When we experience feelings we consider unacceptable or dangerous, our unconscious transforms them into their opposite. Love becomes hate, attraction becomes repulsion, desire becomes fierce criticism. Why does this happen? The unconscious perceives falling in love as a threat to control. Loving means becoming vulnerable, risking rejection, losing power over ourselves. So to protect the ego, it transforms these dangerous feelings into their contrary. It's as if the unconscious were saying, I cannot love you, therefore I will hate you. But how do we recognize when aggression masks love? Observe emotional intensity. True dislike is cold and detached. Aggression masking love is instead charged with passion, almost obsessive. The person seems incapable of ignoring you, always has something to say about what you do, constantly seeks you with their gaze, even while criticizing you. There's also an element of intimate knowledge. Those who attack you often know details about you that others wouldn't notice. They've studied your behaviors, habits, and weak points. This maniacal attention to detail betrays interest going far beyond simple dislike. Another clue is ambivalence. In moments of distraction, when defense is lower, you might catch different looks, gentle gestures, unexpected moments of protection. The unconscious cannot always maintain the perfect mask. Have you ever noticed someone who criticizes you but then secretly worries about you? Someone who attacks you publicly but defends you when you're not there. These are signals that aggression conceals something much deeper. The second signal is even more subtle. The second signal betraying secret love is sudden clumsiness. When someone becomes suddenly clumsy, forgets simple words, or performs uncoordinated gestures in your presence, the unconscious is revealing attraction that the conscious mind seeks to hide. Imagine being at a conference where there's someone you know, always elegant and self-assured, but when you approach, they suddenly stumble over words, spill coffee, forget what they were saying. Everyone would think of a bad day, but Freud would see in these failed acts a direct message from the unconscious. For Freud, no casual errors exist. Every slip, every clumsy gesture, every forgotten word has profound meaning. They are royal roads to the unconscious, moments when our psychic defense is lower and truth emerges as symptom. When we're in love, emotional activation is so intense, it interferes with our higher cognitive functions. Falling in love activates the sympathetic nervous system, that of fight or flight. The body prepares for action, heart accelerates, pressure increases, adrenaline floods the system. But instead of fleeing from a predator, we must make conversation. The result is a short circuit. The unconscious also uses clumsiness as unconscious seduction strategy. Appearing vulnerable and imperfect activates protective instinct in others. It's as if the unconscious were saying, "Look how fragile I am with you, how you make me lose control. Isn't this a sign of how special you are? How do we distinguish attraction clumsiness from simple social tension? Observe specificity. Is the person clumsy only with you or with everyone? If someone is normally coordinated but becomes clumsy exclusively in your presence, the unconscious is speaking clearly. Also note the type of errors. They often concern you specifically. Calling you by the wrong name, forgetting important details you've shared, or conversely remembering tiny details that only someone deeply interested would notice. There's also body clumsiness, nervously touching hair, playing with objects, assuming uncomfortable postures, bumping into things they'd normally avoid easily. The body is literally trying to approach you through space, even unconsciously and clumsily. Have you ever noticed someone who completely loses coordination only when you're present? The unconscious is revealing how important you are to that person, how your presence stirs deep waters. But there's a third signal even more fascinating. The third signal revealing hidden love is selective memory, when someone remembers with maniacal precision every detail concerning you, but systematically forgets everything else. This isn't simple distraction, but an unconscious process Freud called libidinal investment of the object. Imagine this situation. You mentioned once, months ago, that you like a certain type of music. That person not only remembers perfectly, but arrives with a carefully selected playlist. Yet this same person constantly forgets work appointments, friends' birthdays, important commitments. The unconscious functions like a selective archivist. It doesn't preserve everything, only what has emotional relevance. When we're attracted to someone, every piece of information concerning them gets marked as important and filed in memory's special drawer. It's as if the unconscious were saying, "This person is significant. I must remember everything about them." Why does love create this hyper-selective memory? Freud explained that falling in love is an idealization process. The love object becomes invested with such intense libidinal energy that it becomes the center of our psychic world. Everything concerning them acquires sacred value, worthy of preservation in minute detail. There's also an unconscious strategic aspect. Remembering everything about the other person means being able to win them over better. The unconscious gathers information like a love detective, cataloging tastes, preferences, fears, dreams, to then casually propose exactly what can make them happy. How do we recognize this selective memory of love? First, observe disparity. The person remembers everything about you, but is inattentive toward others. They remember that time you said you had a strange dream, but don't remember their boss's name. They remember your preferred color, but forget where they put their house keys. Also note the emotional quality of memories. These aren't just cold information, but details charged with meaning. They remember not just that you have a cat, but what your first pet was called when you were a child. Not just your job, but what you said you love most about what you do. A particular signal is emotion memory. They remember exactly how you felt at a certain moment, what expression you had, what tone of voice you used. This kind of detailed emotional memory betrays a tension level going far beyond casual interest. Then there's anticipatory memory phenomenon. The person seems to remember things you don't even remember saying because they've attributed meanings you hadn't intended. They've interpreted, elaborated, fantasized about your stories. Have you ever noticed someone who remembers things about you that you don't even remember saying? Who seems to have a secret archive dedicated only to you? The unconscious is revealing how much space you occupy in their deepest thoughts. But there's a fourth signal even more intriguing. The fourth signal betraying secret love is temporal distortion. When someone has a completely different relationship with time, only when it concerns you. They always arrive early to your meetings, but are systematically late with everyone else. Or they prolong every conversation with you, but cut short those with anyone else. Imagine having a friend who usually arrives late everywhere, but when you two need to meet, they're already there waiting 10 minutes early. Or someone who usually responds to messages after hours, but with you the response arrives within minutes, at any hour of day or night. The unconscious doesn't know social clocks, but has its own emotional time. When we're in love, time deforms. With the beloved person, minutes fly but also seem eternal. Waiting becomes unbearable, but every moment together is worth infinity. This is what Freud called temporality of eros, different from rational temporality of work and social obligations. Why does love overturn temporal perception? Falling in love activates primitive neurological circuits linked to pleasure and reward. The brain interprets time spent with the love object as quality time, dense with meaning. Conversely, time away from that person seems empty, sterile. There's also an unconscious control aspect. Arriving early means controlling the environment, preparing emotionally, ensuring nothing goes wrong. It's the lover's anxiety transforming into temporal hyper-organization. The unconscious says this meeting is too important to leave to chance. How do we recognize this temporal distortion of attraction? Observe contrasts. The person has a different relationship with time only with you. With others, they're relaxed. With you, they suddenly become punctual or conversely completely lose sense of time. Note message response times. There's different speed, emotional priority that transpires even from timing. Or observe how they manage conversations. With you, they never seem rushed to close, always find just one more topic, prolong goodbyes infinitely. A particular signal is anticipatory anxiety. Days before seeing you, the person already starts organizing, thinking about it, modifying other commitments. Time becomes entirely oriented toward that moment of meeting with you. Then there's retrospective dilation phenomenon. After seeing you, the person seems to mentally relive every moment, recount in detail what happened, analyze every word. Time spent with you never really ends, continues existing in memory and recollections. Another clue is temporal availability. The person always finds time for you, even when claiming to be overwhelmed with commitments. The world's fullest agenda always has a gap if it concerns you. The unconscious reorganizes temporal priorities based on emotional investment. Have you ever noticed someone who has a completely different relationship with time with you, who seems to live in a special temporal dimension when it concerns your relationship? But the fifth signal is perhaps the most subtle. The fifth signal revealing hidden love is unconscious body language, those micro-expressions, involuntary gestures, postures that betray feelings the person doesn't dare confess, even to themselves. Freud maintained that no mortal can keep a secret. If lips are silent, fingers speak. Imagine being in a work meeting where there's someone who speaks to you professionally, maintains distance, seems completely indifferent. But if you observe carefully, you notice their body tells a different story. They lean imperceptibly toward you when you speak. Their feet are always oriented in your direction. Their pupils dilate slightly when you look at each other. For Freud, the body is the unconscious's seat. While the conscious mind can lie, control, mask, the body always betrays deep truth. This is what he called return of the repressed. What gets denied by consciousness always finds a way to express itself through bodily symptom. Why can't the body lie in love? Because attraction is, first of all, a biological phenomenon. When we're attracted to someone, the autonomic nervous system activates. Pupils dilate to better see the object of desire. The body orients toward them like a plant toward the sun. Muscles relax as a sign of trust. But what are the most revealing bodily signals of hidden attraction? Let's start with eyes, which Freud called mirror of the soul. Observe gaze duration. With you, they last a few fractions of a second longer compared to those directed at others. There's also the gaze triangle phenomenon. Eyes move between your eyes and your mouth. Dilated pupils are an infallible signal. In presence of someone who attracts us, pupils involuntarily widen to maximize visual input. It's such a primitive reaction that even the strongest will cannot completely control it. Observe body orientation. Even when the person talks with someone else, their torso remains turned toward you. Feet in particular are incredibly honest, always pointing toward what we unconsciously desire, even when our conscious attention is elsewhere. Then there's unconscious mirroring phenomenon. The person subtly imitates your postures, gestures, breathing rhythm. It's as if the unconscious were trying to create physical synchrony to favor emotional connection. Also note apparently casual micro-touches, brushing your hand while passing an object, briefly touching your shoulder while laughing, accidentally bumping into you while walking. The unconscious seeks physical contact through socially acceptable excuses. A particular signal is interpersonal space management. The person subtly violates social distance rules. They get closer than necessary to speak. Occupy your personal space with objects or gestures. Hands are particularly eloquent. Nervously fiddling with objects, touching hair, constantly adjusting clothes. These are all unconscious attempts to appear attractive or discharge erotic tension. Have you ever noticed someone whose body seems to speak a different language from their words? The unconscious is revealing the truth that the mind doesn't dare confess. But there's one last signal, the deepest. The sixth and final signal revealing deep hidden love is unconscious sacrifice, when someone systematically renounces their desires, needs, or opportunities to favor you, but does so naturally without even realizing it. For Freud, this is the purest sign of total libidinal investment. Imagine someone who has always dreamed of living in another city. Suddenly, when you arrive in their life, they start finding 1,000 reasons to stay. Work is interesting, they've discovered beautiful places nearby. Maybe moving isn't a good idea. They don't consciously connect this decision to you, but the unconscious has already reorganized their life priorities. Freud spoke of sublimation of eros, sexual energy transforming into dedication, care, protection of the beloved object. When we deeply love someone, the unconscious automatically redirects our resources, time, energy, attention, money toward that person. We don't do it by calculation, but because survival instinct extends to the beloved being. This is what Freud called primary identification. The other becomes part of us. Why does love push toward unconscious sacrifice? Because in falling in love, ego boundaries expand to include the other. The love object's happiness becomes indispensable for our own psychic survival. How do we recognize these unconscious sacrifices? Observe habit changes. The person modifies consolidated routines, renounces historical passions, changes lifestyle, apparently without reason. Actually, the unconscious is adapting everything in function of you. Note casual decisions. They always choose restaurants they know you like, even if they had different tastes before. They start listening to music you've mentioned. They buy books on subjects that interest you. They don't do it to consciously impress you, but because the unconscious seeks to create contact points. A powerful signal is emotional availability. The person is always present in your difficult moments, even when they have their own problems to solve. They set aside their urgencies when you need them, without making you feel guilty, without even making you notice. Also, observe unconscious financial sacrifices. They spend more when you're involved, always offer, find excuses to give you things. They don't do it to strategically conquer you, but because the unconscious interprets your happiness as investment in their own happiness. Then there's social time sacrifice. They gradually reduce other relationships, decline invitations they previously accepted if there's possibility to be with you. They don't do it for pathological isolation, but because the unconscious has redefined relational priorities. A subtle signal is renouncing professional or personal opportunities that could distance them from you. They refuse promotions involving transfers. Don't join interesting projects if they interfere with possibility of seeing you. The paradox is that often these sacrifices go unnoticed, both by those who make them and those who receive them. The unconscious works silently, reorganizing life around the love object without clamor, without recognition, without immediate rewards. Have you ever noticed someone who has subtly changed their life since knowing you? The unconscious is revealing love so deep, it transforms entire existence. We've journeyed together through 6 hidden territories of unconscious love, guided by Freud's wisdom: aggression, masking tenderness; clumsiness, revealing vulnerability; selective memory, betraying importance; temporal distortion, unveiling priority; body language that cannot lie; and finally unconscious sacrifice, demonstrating purest love. These signals aren't tricks to conquer someone, but keys to understanding the marvelous complexity of human spirit. The unconscious always speaks, whispers truths that conscious mind doesn't dare confess. Every apparently inexplicable behavior hides deep emotional logic. Every contradiction reveals eternal struggle between desire and control. Next time someone criticizes you too intensely, becomes clumsy only with you, remembers your every detail, has special relationship with time concerning you both, speaks with their body more than words, or unconsciously sacrifices parts of themselves for your relationship, remember, the unconscious might be revealing love that even that person doesn't yet recognize. Now tell me, which of these 6 signals have you recognized in your life? Write in the comments which city you're watching from and share your experience with us. If this journey into the unconscious has fascinated you, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who might need it.